The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Okonjo-Iweala, has expressed displeasure over the lopsidedness in COVID-19 vaccine distribution across the world. Okonjo-Iweala said this while speaking to correspondents after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, who is currently in New York for the 76th United Nations General Assembly. Our correspondent, Abisola Adebayo, has the details.
Amid the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic, ensuring widespread global access to vaccines remains a major challenge. Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari in New York to brief him on efforts to mobilize COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers to Nigeria.
We're helping them monitor their supply chains, which are very complicated, to see what are the bottlenecks they have, what are the regulatory issues they face, how can we facilitate trade for them. In return, we're asking them to deconcentrate production and go to those parts of the world where they have and invest. For example, on the African continent, we don't want to continue importing 99% of vaccines that we use. And I think it's working. Pfizer announced a $100 million investment in South Africa recently. We're also looking at Nigeria, we're the largest country, and His Excellency Mr. President also wants to develop manufacturing.
According to the World Health Organization, over 50% of the population in high-income countries have been vaccinated, while only 4% of their low-income counterparts have received the jab. Okonjo-Iweala says this development is unacceptable.
It's not something that really is good for the world. Why? Because we have all these variants that are circulating. And if you don't vaccinate people, they'll just migrate from unvaccinated to the vaccinated. So what we're saying is, in order to solve this problem, we have to produce more vaccines, and then we have to distribute them equitably to parts of the world that don't have.
Aside from the international community, Okonjo-Iweala also called for collaborative efforts between the government and the private sector in a bid to create balance between production and demand of vaccines.
Vaccines are like a public good, so they also need investment from the government to match part of what the private sector is doing. We need demand. Vaccine producers will not produce unless they know that the vaccines are going to be purchased. And so, the fact if Nigeria can aggregate its demand, then that will help to persuade them to invest. And I think the Honorable Minister of Health is leading a task force of which I'm a member.
India, the world's largest vaccine producer, halted exports in April, leaving many developing countries without adequate supplies and delayed vaccines for millions of people. It is now set to resume exports in October, prioritizing the UN-backed COVAX initiative aimed at vaccine equity across the globe. Abisola Adebayo, TV 360 News.